Can I get a mic or a mic and a half? That the source owe me. Shout out to the editor staff. Yeah, I'm all grown, so much better with math. I need a spread in the Forbes, taking the Benjamin bath. Yeah, I'm serving this track like Steffi Graf. Yeah, Roger Federer, there's no competitor.
Urban Tennis, Episode 6, Dog Days Are Over. Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host and author of A Man and His Racket blog on urbantennis.wordpress.com. I'll be joined shortly by my co-host. But today, we're back at it. 2 big U.S. Open Series warm-up tournaments around the corner. We have the Rodders Cup in Toronto and Montreal, and then the Western and Southern in Cincinnati next week. So today we'll be talking about some comebacks or returns to tour, starting in Toronto with Venus Williams and Alisa Klebanyova. We'll talk about the form of last year's champions for both events and predict what the results will be this year. We'll talk about the ITF, their stance on doping, and especially the cases of Victor Troicki and Marin Cilic. And for our technology segment, we're going to be looking at ways you can follow tennis while you're online, specifically today, tennis communities. Okay, so let's get it started. We had a couple of returns this week, actually just today, in Toronto, when Venus Williams, who hasn't played since the French Open, and Alisa Klebanyova, who hasn't played a WTA event all year, returned at the Rodders Cup. Both of them, unfortunately, suffered losses. Venus Williams winning their first set pretty handily, and then kind of losing all momentum, and she really looked fatigued and really did not hit really solid forehands much of that third set against Kirsten Flipkens, and then Alisa Klebanyova, who lost in straight sets to Canadian Jeannie Bouchard. Bringing in my co-host now, even though they lost pretty convincingly in the first round, it's still very encouraging to see them back playing, hopefully in advance of the U.S. Open.
Well, yeah, I think even though these are higher ranked tournaments, right? Of course, this being a WTA Premier event, it still is tough to get back right into a tournament like this, right? Even in the first round, the competition is going to be a lot tougher than the competition at another lesser tournament on the tour, right? So I think they probably still need to find their footing before they get back out there and start progressing into later rounds.
Well, yeah, and both of them have such extenuating circumstances on their return. Alisa Klebanyova had lymphoma, and she's recovering from that, and it's kept her out for a significant amount of time. She was a top 20 player, and her battle to come back has been incredible. And Venus, who has that immune issue that has really causes her to at times be really not have any energy or ability to recover, and her back. And she noted today in press that she really wants this just warm-ups before the U.S. Open. She probably could have used an extra week, but the match experience was really necessary for her.
Yeah, plus we got to see a fun exhibition on Monday night for the Toronto fans with Monica Seles and Canadian Jeannie Bouchard. All right, and moving on to our next point now, we're going to look at the winners of last year's Montreal, Toronto, and Cincinnati events, with Novak winning the men's tournament in Toronto, Kvitova winning the tournament in Montreal, and Li Na and Federer winning the tournament in Cincinnati. Now I'm going to turn back to the host right here and ask him, what do you think about their chances this year, and what do you think the rest of the tennis calendar holds for them?
Well, I'm one of the people, I guess it's where I'm from. I value these tournaments pretty high. And not direct results for like what's going to happen come New York, but once, like we've said, they're significant tournaments, and I feel that really people who are playing well at the time. Most players go through that 3-4 week break after Wimbledon. So you can really either be very stale and very, unprepared, or you can really, have had great practice sessions, great coaching sessions, and be able to really take advantage of it. So saying that, really of the four, maybe Novak is the only one really in form, and we haven't seen him since Wimbledon. Roger's not in Montreal this year. I think he'll give it a go in Cincinnati, but his back has been, such an issue that you really just cannot predict what kind of tennis he will be playing. Do you want to talk about the women? Petra Kvitova won a depleted Montreal event last year, and she, had maybe the best chance once Serena Williams went out of Wimbledon to win Wimbledon, and then she basically, lost it in the next round. So it's hard to say. And Lena, who spoke about her training sessions in Beijing after Wimbledon, is someone who I think, if they're consistent, will have deep runs in both tournaments. What do you think?
Well, yeah, there's not much else I can add to that. I mean, as we saw with the crazy Wimbledon we saw, right? You still can't count on favorites, even if one favorite does fall out. I mean, you still have to go out there. You have to win your match. So Petra Kvitova and Lena will still, I think they're just hoping they can gain some momentum and really gain some confidence in their game before heading into the US Open, right? Because that's obviously a big part of the game. Your confidence heading into a slam.
Absolutely. And I think it's just, I like the back-to-back events. It's very similar to what Madrid and Rome do, is that it's almost like a preparation for a player for a slam. You're actually playing higher quality tennis opponents within that 2-week time frame. So I really think the cream does rise to the top usually. And you can see that with the past winners. Our next topic really has hit tennis really in the wake of Major League Baseball's similar scandal, their biogenesis scandal. Recently, the ITF, the International Tennis Federation, put an 18-month ban on Victor Troicki when he failed to submit a blood test in Monte Carlo earlier this year. And then Marin Cilic has also been under a cloud of investigation, and there's also some indication that he may also get suspended. So I want to turn to my co-host and say, we've seen what MLB and Major League Baseball has done. What do you think of the ITF and their first real step towards levying suspensions for doping?
Well, I think it's kind of similar because they're both handing out suspensions without too much transparency about how the suspension is being handed out. I mean, you had no real indication that Troicki would receive an 18-month suspension for failing to submit a blood test. All you knew was he would receive a suspension. I mean, we've seen it day in, day out through the baseball press that, Alex Rodriguez will be 50 games. Then it was like 90 games. Now it's 200 games. Now pending appeal. Like, it was so confusing. I think it was very difficult to follow both these cases.
Yeah, transparency has not been, I think, the strongest suit of the ITF. I think baseball is obviously in North American sports taking the brunt of attention for doping, and then internationally you have cycling and issues of that. Tennis is kind of, never been under the spotlight, and I think the promise is that when the ITF does introduce, or has, I think, just started introducing their biological passport program that tries to cover more and more regular checks, that you're going to get the standards in tennis on par with other sports. I guess in the past we couldn't say that. So we don't know, and anything we do say on players would be speculation, so we're not going to do that. But we have to, I think, almost think that this is the first step in the ITF's program, and what they do from now on should be, something we pay attention to, not what they maybe ignored the last couple of years. So we will definitely see how the biological passport and how the Victor Troicki ban change the attitudes and the habits of doping in tennis.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's always tough for an individualistic sport, right? Because it's always going to be perceived that if X player is caught for doping or accused of doping, that they've had an unfair advantage all this time. Anyway, and we're going to move on to another point here. We're going to talk about online tennis communities. I mean, we've all, a lot of us have smartphones, and a lot of us are surfing the net while watching tennis, and a lot of us are reading about tennis at the same time. So this is definitely different than how a lot of us watched tennis 10 years ago. So I'm going to turn back to the host over here and talk about the differences.
Well, yeah, there are differences. You had forums and you had communities for tennis 10 years ago. They may have been more primitive and may have not been on these big platforms like Reddit or Google Plus. But I think that the fact that people are watching with two screens has allowed these communities to basically act as, where people become their own commentators. You're getting distinct opinions. You're getting people discussing points in real time. It just adds, something more engaging when you're watching. Something even more engaging than, following on your Twitter stream. And I really feel once the communities mature, and some of them are maturing, that you really get strong opinions and something that, a lot of tennis fanatics or tennis experts go there, and it's not just, who can scream louder. It's a really interesting analysis that aids in your tennis viewing experience.
Oh, yeah. And I think on top of that, it just adds a little bit of fun too, right? I mean, a lot of times you're not always able to catch a match live in a stadium, right? So sometimes you may be watching a match alone, but you can still check online and just see what the general chatter is, see what the buzz is. I mean, a great example of that was waking up early in the morning for that French Open semifinal between Novak and Nadal, right? So not a lot of people were watching tennis at that time, but online, everyone was watching tennis. So it was great to catch up in that excitement.
Absolutely. The community you get, and, you feel like you're part of something more when you can check in. We're almost nearing the end of this episode, but like always, we like to end with a little game. And today's game is challenges. Basically, we do our Hawkeye challenges. We give 3 challenges to players, tournaments, equipment, anything in the world of tennis. So I'm going to start off, if that's okay with my co-host. He's giving me a thumbs up. All right. Challenge 1. I challenge Novak Djokovic to finally win Cincinnati. Come on, man. 4 runner-up appearances. This would be the only one of the Masters 1000s that are in the current rotation that you haven't won. And I think you'd be the first guy to do it, win all the ones in the current rotation. So I know you are one of the best, if not the best, hardcourt players. So just do it. Win Cincinnati. Get that monkey off your back.
All right. And my challenge is going to go out to the return of Martina Hingis to doubles tennis. I mean, women's doubles tennis, even more so than women's singles, a lot of criticism it gets, is really facing a dearth in consistency. So if we can get some teams together, force them to play better, and have better matches in the women's doubles side, I'd really hope a Hingis return can spur that.
All right, the final challenge is I challenge the WTA to keep their WTA live program on YouTube, a 1-hour program they do on the first Monday of a tournament. Keep it very irreverent. We have all those serious interviews with players. The local press does that. You guys are benefited by getting access to these players and then having them act kind of goofy. So I just recently watched the Rogers Cup one with Petra Kvitova, and she's shooting a hockey puck. So that's stuff we want to see. Keep it irreverent. Keep it fun. That's what I think WTA Live should be. Okay? Like always, we like to have a social media highlight of the week. And we're going to do a little tweet and Instagram and video of Spandy Andy, who is a Vancouver-based LMFAO fan, maybe.
Oh, wow. You sure know a lot about him, don't you? Sorry.
Yeah, well, he had the chance to, have a little dance-off with Venus Williams in Toronto, and it was really fun to see. So if you can check it out on YouTube, it's Spandy Andy and Venus busting a move. Thanks for listening. You can comment below, either on SoundCloud or YouTube. Your patronage is always appreciated. This has been episode 6. Dog days are over.